Anthony Fauci, that man, he's a megalomaniacal fraud whose analysis, policies, and conclusions harmed children. Everything he instructed us to do was self-serving or flat out wrong. And research from Johns Hopkins shows lockdowns barely saved lives by 0.2%.
You're not being truthful or honest with us.
Dr. Anthony Fauci's net worth soared during the pandemic, according to a report from OpenTheBooks.com. And it turns out the Fauci household disclosed net worth increased from $7.6 million as of January 2019 to just over $12.6 million in December 2021.
We've been asking you, and you refuse to answer, whether anybody on the vaccine committees gets royalties from the pharmaceutical companies. I asked you last time, and what was your response? We don't have to tell you.
Right.
We've demanded them through Freedom of Information Act, and what have you said? We're not going to tell you. But I tell you this, when we get in charge, we're going to change the rules, and you will have to divulge where you get your royalties from what companies, and if anybody on the committee has a conflict of interest, we're going to learn about it. I promise you that.
And this just in within the last few minutes, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert for nearly a half century, has announced today that he will be retiring in December. He has advised 7 presidents, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, and now Biden, on everything from the AIDS and HIV epidemics, anthrax, Ebola, and obviously became a household name here with the COVID pandemics. Announced again today that he will be retiring in December.
The NIH continues to refuse to voluntarily divulge the names of scientists who receive royalties and from which companies. Over the period of time from 2010 to 2016, 27,000 royalty payments were paid to 1,800 NIH employees. We know that, not because you told us, but because we forced you to tell us through the Freedom of Information Act.
Well, first of all, let's talk about royalties.
That's the question. No, that's the question. Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know? Why don't you reveal how much you've gotten and from what entities? The NIH refuses. Look, we ask them. The NIH, we ask them whether or not, who got it and how much. They refuse to tell us. They sent it redacted. Here's what I want to know. It's not just about you. Everybody on the vaccine committee, have any of them ever received money from the people who make vaccines? Can you tell me that? Can you tell me if anybody on the vaccine approval committees ever received any money from people who make the vaccines?
Soundbite number 1, are you going to let me answer a question? Okay, so let me give you some information. First of all, according to the regulations, people who receive royalties are not required to divulge them even on their financial statement, according to the Bayh-Dole Act.
With all due respect, Senator,
You're the one that said you would not reveal what company gave you royalties or what company gave the other scientists royalties.
Gotta move on.
What you told the committee.
So I don't have any idea what goes on,
and they won't reveal, as well as you won't reveal.
Okay,
what
we're gonna move on. We're over time.
Everything he told us was wrong.
Dr. Fauci isn't retired yet, but he is on track to collect the largest retirement in American history. Take a look at this. He is estimated to bring in more than $350,000 a year. Wow, not bad.
He lied about everything, including gain-of-function research. The virus came God knows where from, but he did everything to cover his ass, so we'll never know.
So you really are the only honest actor who is taking it to Dr. Fauci, who is so horribly conflicted. Now, for you, what is the most troubling conflict of interest that he has?
Well, the thing is the entire pandemic, if it came from a lab, the fact that he approved the research and funded the lab would draw culpability to himself, culpability to the NIH, culpability to all of these people who made the unwise decision to send money to China to do dangerous research. All kinds of alarms and bells went off. Wow, this would be really damaging to science and to NIH and to all the taxpayer money we get and also to themselves personally. So they began a cover-up, and I think it's the biggest cover-up probably in the history of science. We will get to the bottom of this.
Well, I hope someone does, and I can't imagine for a moment why Democrats, their constituents died too. The kids in their districts, they suffered as well. They suffered through the mental health crisis and learning loss because of this pandemic, and we still don't know where it came from. We deserve to know that. That should not be a political pursuit. Dr. Fauci has made it so. He has turned into a political operative, and he has done so much damage to this country. Now, another answer you've been trying to elicit from him, and he's been very slippery on this, and this is also a glaring conflict of interest. There are people who sit on those vaccine committees. Could they be getting royalties, and could they be enriched from the vaccines that they are forcing into people's bodies?
Fauci and others have refused to answer any questions. They're steadfastly refusing to answer any questions, but a judge, through the Freedom of Information Act, required that they release some emails. They released them, but they blanked them all out except for the total amount of royalties. But it's not a small amount. 1,800 scientists received $193 million, but they won't tell us from which companies to which scientists. So my question is simply this, and there may be nobody on the committee that's received this money, but if they won't tell us, it makes us wonder. So on the vaccine committees, there's several committees that approve vaccines and then push forward these mandates. Is anybody on those committees receiving royalties from the two companies that make the vaccine, or three companies that make the vaccine?
Dr. Anthony Fauci announced today that he will leave the federal government in December after more than 5 decades.
The problem is the damage is already done from the virus, as well as from the government's draconian overreaction and COVID measures. And there are still a lot of unanswered questions, like where did COVID originate? And who got rich off the vaccines?